Alright, welcome back to a talk with the fellas. Today we'll be diving deeper into the movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And talking about its historical accuracy and relating it to music, along with the history and things in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're basically gonna kind of relate it to all the things we talked about in class. Just all the
themes.
Yeah, all the themes that were occurring in the movie that again, like the TBA, lynching, the poverty mindset, all that stuff. Okay, you want to start us off?
So, Brian, how do you feel about the economic impact of the Great Depression, and how do you think it was represented throughout this film?
I think kind of tying it to the poverty mindset. I think I'm going to talk about this a lot. It really influenced everybody's decisions in this time period, along with racism. I'll get into that later, but I think it really, just like the first example that was really prominent to me was when the guy's cousin ratted him out for the bail money.
Yeah, because he couldn't afford to
yeah,
his own, so
I mean, like, you wouldn't bail on your cousin in any other circumstance, but like, you know, there was a prize money, so like he did it. That just shows you like how desperate people were in these times.
Like bank robbers, like
Babyface
Nelson. Yeah,
people go to the extremes during these times to get money because it's so scarce
Or if you really think about it, the whole movie, like the whole plot and everything that happens is all because of a need for money in the first place. Like, Clooney's character, what's his name again?
I don't know.
Alright, cool. So, the only reason he's in jail in the first place is because he and his family were poor. So, he tried to make a fake license, which was a fake one, and he got caught for it, and the only reason he did that was to make more money for him and his family. But because he got caught, he and his wife got divorced, which is the only reason he then had to break out of jail in the first place, was all because he needed money, so he made a fake license. He got caught for it.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting how they like express this, because like, you know, if your like cousin's gonna rat you out, like it's obviously not like a good, it's not like a positive like light to the situation, but when they did it, they made it like funny that they had the kid like driving away with them, and RUNNOFT. That's kind of when me and my parents watch it. That's one of the things we say. But yeah, the way that they express like Babyface Nelson, it was actually a real character, right? Like he was a real life person. Yeah. Just showing kind of like the comedic side of things, and I think they did that a lot throughout the movie. It's pretty interesting.
I completely agree. So, how do y'all feel about the technology and music of that time, of the Great Depression, and how it's represented in the movie?
I think this, you know, kind of it was kind of the beginning of an industrialized period in the United States. After the Great Depression was over, this is obviously in the Great Depression. After the Great Depression was over, there's obviously, you know, another war, which caused for further advancement in technology. But after World War I, you know, you had all these advancements, and you know, music used to be passed down by just copying someone else's song that you heard. But now this could be mass produced. The movie just showed like how fast they could just produce a movie, get it distributed, and how fast it can run out, and how fast it became popular. I mean, like they got out of prison and like produced a movie, produced a song like really fast, and it was it's kind of cool to see that.
On the music side of things, I feel like this movie kind of shows like how people use music as an outlet during this time, and how so many people were drawn to the Soggy Bottom Boys because it's like good family happy music, and like a time that's like really dark and hard. You know, people can turn on the radio and listen to music, cheer them up, and I feel like a lot of people were like drawn to music because of that.
Something I wanted to add, I was looking into music in the Great Depression, or country specifically, and it said that during Great Depression, country music had three like main categories, just like it has like today. There's more like pop country and outlaw country type deal, and at the time it was classified as hillbilly country, out west country, and the third one I don't remember because it wasn't significant to the movie. But I kind of thought the Soggy Bottom Boys song was more of a hillbilly type country.
Yeah, I mean that fits the description.
Especially when they went on stage and they all had on the fake beards and the coveralls and all that.
And kind of like that podcast that we listened to in class. or like for homework, the kind of like vibrating of the noise, like I am a man. It's like the vibrating kind of feel of country music. Yeah. That was definitely expressed, and like they did a really good job because didn't they make the song for the movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They made a soundtrack for the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which was really
soundtrack
impressive
was
because it was a good soundtrack, and it was really like it sounded like it was actually like from that time.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Also, yeah, some more what he said, like with the little like hi that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a bunch of other country songs and like it's got really similar. Like I found a song called the most popular country song of that time. It was I think in the 28 I think no, it's 1933 is when it was released, and it had like a very similar type beat to it and the similar. It didn't have the same words, but the same like lyrical pattern to it.
Yeah. And then this is again like with the industrial age, kind of like it's spreading fast. When they were moving into this more like industrialized period, like producing songs like a lot quicker than they previously could. That also kind of adds to the nostalgia effect of like the old way of like kind of listening to music, old way of feeling. Now that we're in like they're reaching this new era, really. I think it touches on the nostalgia part of the country music that we talk about in class.
Yeah.
Right? Nostalgia being one of the main things country music.
Yeah, I want to kind of transition this into the political reforms and responses to poverty, like the TVA, for example, because I can tie it into the music. So if you think about it, the only reason country music was able to spread so much is because of the like recording studios they had and how they were able to record music and then have it on the radio. One reason they could do that is because the TVA, when they built the dams that provide electricity for most places that didn't have it before, it gave them the ability to record those songs. So I also thought that was interesting because the TVA's whole purpose wasn't to spread music around, it was to provide work for people during the Great Depression to try and get the economy to recover, and in the process it made electricity and helped a bunch of people, which is also, you can see in the movie in the end, is the little shack where they all were got flooded because
this part we didn't see in the movie.
Yeah, we didn't finish that part.
And it was the TVA. I don't remember the TVA like being directly addressed in the movie. Like besides the dam, I guess that was pretty direct. But I remember seeing like slices of it and like references to it. I remember when they were burning the newspaper, it was like burning around like the TVA part in the newspaper when they were gathered on the campfire with Babyface Nelson. It was kind of like it wasn't like a main point of it. You would kind of have to like know what the TVA was to kind of take up like that it was there, that it was like influencing their decisions, kind of.
All right. You want to talk about the lynching and the racial violence of, I guess, the Robert Johnson character. When they had the whole lynching mob, and a lot of that ritual was accurate, and like they would often burn crosses at these these lynch mobs, and it was something that we kind of like we wondered like, wow, there's a lot of people here, and that's a really like dramatic like fiery cross. Like, were they really that dramatic, or were they kind of like like low down about it? But that was how many people did you say total?
We did some research into it because I want to see if that whole scene was for dramatic effect or if it was like a realistic scene. And it said at the time period, like during the Great Depression, around the nation there were around 4 million members of the KKK. And at one point in time, there was in South Carolina, there was a really big like storming, and 500 members came into a jailhouse, broke in, and hung 8 black men just for like their crimes, but they didn't think the jail would be doing a good enough job, so they killed them themselves.
Yeah, and I think the movie did a really good job of like kind of expressing how many people were involved with the KKK during these times. I'm not sure what the population was, but
especially like rich and wealthy people.
Yeah,
like, the mayor and like really rich people from that little country club were there.
Like this was so like influenced into the daily life of people. So like, this kind of stretch, but it kind of shows the systematic like racism. Because like you can see like all the politicians that were involved in this stuff, and it was considered bad, even though nobody really considered it bad, but like respectfully it was considered bad. So it was kind of like shoved out to the side like with the KKK, but it was still like really prevalent during these times.
Yeah, I mean, you have people like your mayor that are like, you know, leaders of the KKK.
And
what it
trying
kinda
to
says
fix
about-
the country at the same time. It's like in
Kinda
their
says-
mind, they're trying to help, like by being the mayor, but they're also trying to help, in their opinion, by getting rid of black people. Because to them, that's like they think that's what's right. I think it's interesting that they're doing like a underground, like secret way of doing that, and then going out and running as mayor as well.
You wanted to talk about that Robert Johnson character?
Yeah. I thought it was just kind of cool how they incorporated that into the movie, and you know, when they pick him up and he's talking about how he just went to I think it was the railroad, and he sold his soul to the devil. He came back, and you know, or the crossroad.
Yeah.
They go in the studio. You know, he's playing the guitar well. And I thought they did a really good job of incorporating him in the movie, and I mean, relating back to the mob. Like,
I found the way he described the devil he sold to. He described it as the the sheriff that had the dog that walked around with really big,
the devil.
dark glasses.
That's the devil. Yeah. We'll get into like how that relates to the Odyssey later, but I thought it was a cool character learning about in class, like when we're like, you know, this is like one of the first like country music stars that was documented, and he sold his soul to the devil, and you know, instantly got to be really talented at guitar.
I remember we watched a documentary about him. He was like he was never that good at guitar, and then one day it was claimed that he sold his soul to the devil because he started going off with this guy into a graveyard practicing guitar and just disappeared and came back and was like the best there was. Like no one could play as well as he could.
Yeah, like every time I see this movie, there's something I pick up on. Like I mean, D-Rob did tell us that he was incorporated in the movie, but like you know, to see that he was picked out from this, you know, direct character, you know, that George Nelson was an actual person and all that stuff. You know, the more I watch it, the more I pick up on and realize like all the stuff they've been drawing out. And,
Psychology and poverty. So this ties back to the characters. So kind of like back I was saying earlier with the main character, Clooney's character, how the only reason he was ever in the spot in the first place was because he wanted money. Also want to talk about the only reason his two people, I forget their names, that broke out with him.
Yeah.
They only broke out with him because he told them he had like $1 million hidden away, was it? And so they were so desperate for money that they were at risk. Like the one guy had 2 weeks left in his prison sentence. He was willing to risk the rest of his life and not wait 2 more weeks. So he broke out, about to put himself in line for having life in prison, just so he could get money. So like it kind of really shows you how like important having money was to them, because he was willing to put his entire life on the line for $350,000 because they had to split it 3 ways.
I mean, this is kind of their mindset back then. I mean, a lot of people were just trying to get working, get money any means possible, like shown by the main character. I mean, with the fake license, just trying to get money somehow. It's kind of just that mindset at the time.
I think they really focus, like, I think every single decision that was made in this movie can be related to the poverty mindset. I mean, like, even the politicians you see discussing, like, what they're going to do to their opposing candidate and all that stuff, like, it's all with respect to the Great Depression. You know, it was the main, like, driving force in everyone's decisions, and, like, you know, it was the main, like, you know, COVID was, like, for us, you know, like, COVID had an effect on every single thing that we did, and it was, like, the main kind of driving, like, factor in all of our
decisions. It is what helped us make every decision, was what would make the whole COVID situation better or worse. Same way with them, it was the same way they had with money. Everything they did was like, well, how much money is it going to cost? Can I get money from doing this? Will I lose money from doing this? Things like that. Like, that was their top priority because of the Great Depression. They had no money, so that was what was most important to them.
I think also kind of going back to the racism part, just kind of being like the whole system being racist. The movie also kind of did a good job of like demonstrating that not everyone was racist. I know we just said that a big majority of people were racially prejudiced back then, but you know, you like our main characters obviously have nothing against the black man that they
Right.
they made a song with and all that stuff. And they're horrified by the KKK meeting and all that stuff. I think when people think back to times like this, like every single person would every white man racist every black man, which really wasn't the case, but it was a big.
It was a big
portion.
thing, like it was a majority was.
And also, kind of like the prison. We didn't really touch on the prison aspect of this because it's not really what we talked about in class too much. But them kind of being in prison and being at their lowest low and being treated like slaves kind of like gave them some empathy for the slaves, or I mean for the black people, like during this time. So obviously they're not going to be prejudiced to them because they understand what they feel.
Something I wanted to add, kind of touched on what Trey said earlier. He was talking about the music and how in the movie it was like their way of talking, and I thought that was interesting that he said that because that's very similar to like what we covered in our last podcast about like slavery and how they would sing their song while they were working. I think it's interesting how the music has changed a little bit, even though this music is like a descendant of the original like songs they sang when they were working in the fields. I think it's funny because it's still what they use to represent who they are, and it's also like a big political thing. Like, for example, once the mayor that was losing, Pappy, he was losing really, really badly, and the Soggy Bottom Boys came and sang, and he claimed that they were performing for him, and it like turned the tables around completely. It made them root for him. Because music is just such an influential and like important thing in everybody's everyday life, and certain songs represent certain people in certain ways based off the lyrics and how they go. Because everybody can find a certain way to connect a song. Like in country music, when we talked about how country music is listened to like around the world, especially in Africa with like Dolly Parton and all things. It's not the same thing. Like they're in Africa, they're not going to Tennessee and all these different things. But it's just like the story behind all of it they can relate to, because everyone's had issues with like their mom or a girl or
so
love
cool how it
story,
like
things like
connects with everything. Like this movie's connected what we're talking about in class, which is also what we're talking about now. But which connects back to the podcast that we listen to, which connects to our experience with country music and all that stuff. It ties it all, like you can see it all tied together really well.
I mean, music's always going to connect people together.
Exactly.
I mean, back then, slavery, 1920s, now. I mean, people. I mean, just using rap as an example, people, see through their situations and use this as an outlet, and people listen to it because they have the same struggles,
Yeah.
I mean, that can go for any genre, but I'm just saying, people will always use music as an outlet, and
because it's relatable. It can tell a story without like a picture. Like you can picture it in your head, and it also leaves things open for your own interpretation. So for everything that you listen to and all the lyrics you hear, you can interpret it in your own way in your head to make it fit your story and your scenario. It makes you feel like more people know how you feel, and it makes you feel like you fit in more because other people understand your story.
Yeah, it's hard to find someone who doesn't like music. I mean, you can find someone who's more into music than another person, but I mean, I think every person I know is into music one way or another, and there's a lot of variety too in like what people listen to, which it's just crazy. I'm kind of getting off topic, but it just kind of like Trey said, just a way to kind of vent out. I think everybody uses that, and everybody can relate to that, and that was demonstrated well in the movie.
I would like to talk about the relation to Homer's Odyssey.
Yeah, that was cool. It was it was the second time we watched a movie in school, which is crazy to me. We
watched it freshman year in English because we had just read Homer's Odyssey, and Miss Ray told us that this was a movie that was like parallel to that, and so we watched it again this year in Southern Steek, and I think it's cool. Like you can see parallels.
Like again with all like the every time I watch this movie, it's building on something. I watched the movie with my parents before we watched it in Miss Ray's class. I had no idea that it was in relation to the Odyssey at all, and then I watched it and I can see how John Goodman's character with one eye was like the Cyclops. How the cop with the dogs was the devil, always having fire reflected in his glasses. The journey that they're making and all that stuff. It's kind of cool, and it's just more on like the movie itself and not more of like its relation. It's just kind of cool how it all like again ties everything together and uses all these like it's not just a good story. It takes all these references and these actual people and these actual like obviously famous stories like the Odyssey.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many like different ways they tie stuff in here. It's really cool to think. Like, I personally like stories that have somewhat truth to them, and that you can go further into it. And like the character Babyface Nelson, like is a real person, and the whole story itself has connection to Homer's Odyssey, and it's cool how it all ties together.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, the movie it just does a good job of kind of connecting, and it connects all these like real life people and stories and all this stuff, and but it still makes it a believable story. Like this could actually like happen in the Great Depression and stuff like that. Simultaneously, showing characters like John Goodman, who's this big racist guy with one eye, like. I also thought it was funny. This is more just on the movie itself again, like the John Goodman scene, just out of nowhere, them talking, they're talking with the frog, and he just gets out a bat, smacks him in the head, out of nowhere. And then the other guy keeps talking. He's like, "Hey, what'd you do that for?" It's like, "I don't know." Smacks the other guy.
Trying to think, what were all of them locked up for? So the main character for
the
fake license, and then one of them wasn't even there for knocking up a grocery store.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't like more of like why they were in there. It was just kind of like it. Well, I guess it was, but it was kind of like saying, these guys didn't go out and kill people. Like they're not criminals, but they're just
trying to get by and make money and survive.
They're just in jail,
And all the reason they're all in jail. If you think about it, he knocks up a grocery store. Why? Because he probably needed money and food. Because he couldn't buy food, so he needed money.
And again, with the devil chasing him with the dogs and everything, like it did a really good job of making those people seem like the villains because they were. And then you're like, at the end when they got pardoned, like, hey, we got pardoned. What are you doing? Why are you hunting after us? I thought we were done with you guys. And they were like, oh, well, we didn't hear about that. We don't have a radio over here. And they were like, oh, I mean, it just really shows that they don't care about the law or anything. They just want them to suffer, and they want them to die because they have a lynch. We got a little visitor in here.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like going on what you just said, I mean, the system was just kind of messed up. And I mean, especially like one of them being like colored.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of like the fact that they just all got pardoned and then they go and do that. Like that's stuff that used to happen back like during slavery.
Yeah.
And it's just messed up.
So what tied to the racism was remember when they showed up to the recording studio and the guy, the first question he asked was,
Yeah.
well, any of y'all black?
Yeah. I mean, he's a
like,
more
he's
rugged
like, I
character,
don't record for black people. And they're like, actually, well, only this guy here, I forgot what he called him. He was like saying it wasn't on the performance. It was like the person who like traveled with him and carried their equipment and was black. So, but because of that, he allowed them to record. But since they at first said they were black, they weren't allowed to record.
Yeah. Yeah, again, just kind of the poverty mindset and also the racist mindset, like, I'll go back to John Goodman's character, taking him out to the tree, out to lunch, I think it was, just to beat him without any witnesses, because they were donating they were giving money to
And they were using God through it.
Yeah, like he was it was literally like a Bible seller, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just
or he was claiming to be
who doesn't want to buy some other Bible, something that's gonna help you. I mean, it's really like attractive business, and he knows that. That's why he's doing that. He's like, okay.
Speaking of that, I'll talk about the pay or like the toll religion plays in the movie. You got that how the one-eyed guy uses the Bible and God to get to the three of them, and then you also have the scene where everyone except for Clooney's character get baptized and like they think they're pardoned for life now and everything's good again. Mm-hmm. I just find it interesting how like even in a time of like nothing, like you don't have anything left, God always makes you feel better. And I also find it like interesting how different people like interpret the words of God. Like the KKK and all them, they think God doesn't like black people, and then you have people like in the river where everyone's accepted and everything's okay no matter who you are, what you did. I just found that scene to be really interesting and like a big influential role in the movie.
Yeah, I think we've kind of forgot to touch on religion. I think we should have touched on that a little bit more. It definitely plays a role in the movie. I mean, everything Samuel just said stands up well. Kind of building off what he said. You know, there's people that claim to be, you know, all for Jesus and believe in the Bible. John Gibbons' character again. But then there's people like the people that are getting baptized going down in the water who don't boast about being, you know, like believing in Jesus and stuff, but they just do it. You know, and they go down to the river to baptize people. They don't, you know, tell people they're going to baptize people. They just invite everyone. You know, everyone's welcome, and that's really like what it's all about.
I feel like there's a lot of exploitation of religion, like for means of money, and this like John Goodman's character, you know, using Christ to beat people up, steal money.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could say that Robert Johnson character, you know, he goes to Satan, the devil, you know, he sells his soul in exchange for money. Yeah, and again, like these, I mean, like his ability will lead to money. Like these, it's also kind of cool. Like these people aren't bad characters. Like the guy that went sell his soul to the devil, he's not viewed as a bad character, you know. But you know, the Bible seller is viewed as a bad character. It's, you know, it kind of shows like, you know, you can say you believe in something, or you can, you know, not believe in something and still be a good person and still be a bad person. Yeah. You know, it's not determining of your character or not.
Well, is there anything else either of y'all would like to add?
No, I think that about wraps it up. We hit on everything.
I agree. Alright, that was Talks with the Fellas. We'll catch you next time.
Alright.